I'm James Forder, and I'm Fellow in Economics here at Balliol.
And I'm Suellen Littleton, and I'm the lecturer in management here at Balliol. Well, as I am the individual who will teach first-year students for the whole of the year, the Saïd Business School's required general management course, I'm really looking for students who are coming in very open to learn and understanding that they're not expected to know much about this subject when they enter. While some of them may, it's certainly not required. And so, because the course is a theoretical course, which is introducing students to the broad range of subjects within the field of management, I'm really looking to help them to understand how to use those models and frameworks that the discipline introduces them to, how to understand the significance and role of the academic management literature in the subject and its relevance to not only these theoretical models, but also the business world at large. So an open mind, an enthusiasm for understanding these things, and a willingness to work really hard at some of those aspects which some students are less prepared for or find more challenging.
It's a great answer. It's intellectual skills, intelligence, willingness to learn, want to listen to their tutors, want to do a lot of reading. Those are the things that make the good students once they're here. And it's what we're trying to do is find the people who will be the best students when they are here. I give them some reading to do and an essay to write most of the time. And they come along to the tutorial and we discuss what they've read and what they've written. That's tutorials, of course. I mean, you say we also run classes in economics. All the students, all the first year students have to learn some maths. Some of them will have studied, well, they will all have studied maths, but there's always some to learn. We do that in the class, so of course there'll be set problem exercises for the class.
Like econ, the business school does run classes. So Saïd Business School, particularly in the areas of finance, for example, or accounting, will have classes, which we don't teach here at Balliol, but are run by the tutors that are at the business school directly. But here at Balliol, in terms of the tutorials that I undertake here in college, what we have is a very extensive reading list, which has myriad material which relates to a variety of different ways of looking at business. So I will give them every week. They will either have an essay or possibly a project to undertake. So there is work every single week, and we will discuss it, usually in a group of two people, two students and myself, to understand their understanding of it, their interpretation of it, and because it's first year, a fair amount of focus on understanding what the requirements of the preliminary exams are at the end of the first year to make sure they're very well prepared to move on to the studies they'll do in the following years. And if I were to give an example, a working example of this, we might ask a pure essay question on some theoretical aspects introduced in first week, but yet in second week, what we might do is if we were looking at organizational structures, we might then move into some analysis of platform firms specifically, bring in organizations like Uber, Deliveroo, Airbnb, and actually do detailed research on those firms to understand how we see that operating in the marketplace. And that helps bring the subject alive and put its relevance into place in the tutorial. My tutorials will generally be one a week with two students, and there'll be discussion of an essay or some project work. But what we find in this particular subject in particular, and given the backgrounds of the sorts of people that we admit, so we have people from all sorts of backgrounds and all sorts of parts of the world studying economics and management here, is often what we'll do is we'll take the work that we've got, the academic literature, the question at hand, and we might propose different contexts in which this could be interpreted, or different ways of different industries, different businesses, to help students understand the applicability of what they're learning and to really deepen their understanding of how the subject holds together across the year.
Well, in first year economics, I think we tend to be dealing with very precisely defined economic models. And a good part of the discussion will be about the exact logic by which the theory works. And so then the students will have, as I was saying earlier, they'll have written their essay on how this works, and we'll talk about that. But then I will be trying to explore the logical detail of what they've said, whether they've said something imprecise, which we want to correct, or whether there's some further ramification of it which could be considered. So it's logically and formally driven in that way, very much so in the first year. So many candidates are nervous and possibly puzzled about the interview. I think the most important thing is to believe that we really are trying to identify the candidates who are most suited to the course. There isn't any trick about it. I hear all kinds of foolish stories that one must never contradict the interviewer, or must always contradict the interviewer, or never change one's mind. And really it's a conversation. I'm going to ask the candidates questions which I expect them to find a bit difficult. But there's no kind of trick or trap. I'm just trying to give them an opportunity to show what they've learned or what they're thinking about or whatever it may be. And the best thing for the candidate to do is try to hold an intelligent conversation, not think of there being tricks or techniques or anything like that at all. It's probably the case that more than half of the research papers I've written have started with questions from students. I remember one very distinctly when I was telling the students that they'd not considered a particular piece of theory properly, and one of the students said, well, you tell us that, but what is the right way of thinking of this piece of theory? And that set me thinking. I ended up writing 2 papers. It turned out to be much more complicated than it seemed. I ended up published 2 papers on that. One of my students asked me about the Phillips curve, the so-called, and whether anyone ever really believed what the books say. I ended up writing a book about that. So again and again, my research has started with student questions coming up in tutorials.
Well, as I've mentioned, our students come from very diverse backgrounds and from all parts of the world. And so I actually really very much enjoy that we are in a small group, that because I spend the whole year with them, I know them very well. And they bring so much material from their own lives into that space where I find it fascinating to watch a student intellectually engage in what they're being taught and that apply that to the world around them. And when they bring that into that space of the tutorial with us, often the other individual in the room will react to that, I will react to that, and we will learn about all sorts of aspects of business, particular businesses, way business is undertaken in certain parts of the world, that really make for lively, wonderful discussions that make teaching an absolute pleasure. Well, I would say the students make teaching at Balliol wonderful. They come to Balliol with a level of enthusiasm and engagement. They're willing to work hard, and they tend to thoroughly enjoy what they do, or at least they pretend to in tutorial. And so what I find with my students is, due to the activities at the business school and here at Balliol, they're very engaged in their community. They're very collegiate. For example, one of our students is currently running the bar here at Balliol, and I will engage in conversations about all sorts of business issues just with that student alone as she starts to experience business firsthand.